Opinions and ideas expressed in the following Moraine Valley Broadcast Channel recording are those of its creators and do not represent the views of Moraine Valley Community College.
Hey guys, welcome back for oh my god. Okay. Hey guys, welcome back to Food for Thought. Today's episode we're going to focus on the food industry and its effect on obesity. My name's Taylor.
My name is Jane.
And I'm Trisha. And today, this podcast is a representation of Discourse on the obesity crisis. Mm-hmm. Do you guys have definitions of discourse so, like, the audience knows what we're talking about?
Right.
Okay.
You go ahead, Taylor.
I actually found a definition pretty short and sweet. Discourse is a written or spoken communication or debate.
Now that we know what discourse means, I feel like we should understand what obesity is and how it's measured. Mm-hmm. So obesity, according to the CDC, they define it as the weight that is higher than what is considered as a healthy weight for that height. And a BMI, I read this on the Harvard School of Public Health website, that doctors can easily calculate the body mass index, which is the BMI, for the height and weights they gather at each checkup. Someone with a BMI measurement of 25 to 30 would be considered overweight, while someone with a BMI 30 or higher would be considered obese.
Okay, and we're like discourse and obesity lie together. We're basically going to talk about today is how the food industry blames or does not take blame for the responsibility and the role in obesity today. So the debate is basically personal versus environment.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about peer-reviewed ads, journals, TV shows, radio, congressman speeches, things like that sort of go along with the topic of obesity and discourse.
Yeah, so there's kind of like, we all sat together and we thought of the three things we thought of for each personal versus environment when we thought of that relating to the obesity crisis. So for personal, we thought mainly, like, people go, it's your own problem, you have to figure it out. It's how you eat and it's how you exercise. While environment, we thought of it's what you see, what you're told, and like the income, because we looked it up in a lot. We noticed that with statistics and stuff, that lower income families and communities, poverty, tend to be more overweight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah, because if you think about it, like, you go home from work, or it's just cheaper and it's easier to get something fast food.
Right. Do you really want to stand over an oven after standing all day or working all day and cook a meal when you could just go down the street and get a sandwich?
Yeah, and just get a cheeseburger or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also found that from a quote from Think Progress, Democrats tend to believe that both the individual and government are responsible for combating the obesity epidemic, while Republicans believe that the on us falls largely on the individual. So it's basically saying that Republicans tend to think that it's more of a personal responsibility than an environmental responsibility.
No, like, I found a quote that fits right into that. It's from a congressman named Rick Keller, and in 2004, to ban lawsuits claiming health damages against fast food restaurants is typical in emphasizing personal behavior. And he says we've got to get back to those old-fashioned principles of personal responsibility, of common sense, and get away from this new culture where everybody plays the victim and blames other people for their problems. So basically, he's putting it on the individual and saying, like, it's not the fast food's problem at all, which is a perfect example of personal responsibility.
Right, taking initiative.
Yeah. Okay,
So then we had also watched an HBO documentary called Weight of the Nation, and we compared that with Nicole Arbour video called Dear Fat People.
Yeah, the stigma part of it mainly. The Weight of the Nation, they talk to people who are overweight and obese, and they kind of ask them what their feelings are, how they're spoken to every day, like what they go
their
through.
Personal, lively experiences.
Yeah, well, Nicole Arbour, who's an internet personality, she made a video called Dear Fat People, and she is basically saying, I'm being harsh because I care, and she just had many different examples. Do you guys want to talk about those two?
Yeah.
In the Weight of the Nation video, one of the obese people they don't need to be told every day, just when they already know. So it's kind of like...
Yeah, it's like, don't tell me. Like, I already know what I'm going through.
She has that sort of outsider perspective when she's not living it every day. And there were many people in that HBO documentary where they were saying, we live with this every day. We don't have to be told. Right.
Yeah, and they even talk about like the people who take food out of their grocery cart. Yeah. And she had that story with the family on the airplane. And
right.
She also did where there was like this family and she had to wait a long time because they were overweight, so it took them a while to get through everything. And then she sat next to the son on the airplane. He was like over her seat. She was
making it seem like he was doing it on purpose when in reality he can't control that he's invading her space.
Yeah, exactly. And
it's really not even that big of an issue. You kind of just gotta deal with it.
Exactly. Like, what is he going to do? And the parking lot thing that you brought up, Jake.
Nicole made a very impressional point when she was talking about basically saying that we provide crutches to obese people and calling them disabled and saying that their parking lot shouldn't be at the front of the parking lot. It should basically be at the back so that they get the exercise and walk to the front of the grocery store.
Oh, like outside view, and her video's out in the media, and she refuses to apologize for it because she thinks that she's helping people. And it's just another thing of like deflecting and people saying what they want.
I thought it was very interesting in the HBO documentary where many of the people who are being interviewed feel like it's become socially acceptable to bully people if they're obese.
Yeah, it's just
they feel like they're gonna go outside their home and they just already expect it from outside people. And I just think that a big possibility with the Nicole Arbour video, she could be doing everything she's doing just for the media, just for likes, for views, for
totally. Lobbyist Rick Berman, aka Dr. Evil, who he's a lobbyist against many organizations. For those who don't know him, he runs a public relations company called Berman & Co. He has made many ads attacking government regulations, especially dealing with food, and he's just a big example of personal responsibility exercise, especially because he's funded by the food industry mainly.
Right.
And we have a commercial we wanted to play for the viewers just to show basically what his ads are showing people and like what they're making people believe.
Everywhere you turn, somebody is telling us what we can't eat. It's getting harder just to enjoy a beer on a night out. Do you ever feel like you've always been told what not to do? Find out who's driving the food police at consumerfreedom.com.
And Consumer Freedom is just one of his many examples. How it's personal responsibility and the government telling you what to do, just to show people like you can do what you want.
And I know visually you couldn't see the video, but it was very graphic in portraying how human instinct doesn't like to be challenged. If someone sets out to do something, they're going to do that.
And the whole video was someone trying to eat something and a hand coming out and taking it out. So I think human instinct doesn't like to be challenged is a big thing with that, because, which is another big example of personal responsibility. And we looked at this and we found a quote from her by the New Yorker. And so this is the CEO of PepsiCo, and she was in an interview and they were talking about kind of whose responsibility about the obesity crisis. And her quote was, "Real challenge is, instead of sitting down and figure out who is responsible specifically, why don't we say we need to be part of the solution?" Again, deflecting their responsibility.
Putting it on the individual.
Yeah, taking no part on what they do to America and how they're a big reason our population is, obese.
We got her, and we have Susan Neely, who we wanted to talk about too, who is a lobbyist. She works for a lobbyist group, Beverage Association, which is another thing funded by the food industry. Which lobbyists are people who are paid by different companies to go and get their bills or things to help them out and influencing Congress people. So it goes like food company, lobbyist, government, and how they can try to curve it. How it goes back to being paid by the food industry.
And she was also confronted by just a spokesperson trying to see her input on obesity and beverages, right?
In The Weight of the Nation, we watched that.
The Nation looked troubled in answering the questions because she had to, of course, represent her company and defend them. But how can you go about doing that knowing? And
she just deflected the whole time. We tried to change the subject.
She changed it about pushed it again more towards exercise and less TV. Instead of focusing on her company's
responsibility.
Input
Yeah.
in the issue.
And you looked up Michael Bloomberg, right?
Mayor of New York, and he limited 16 ounce of size of sugary drinks sold in restaurants, movie theaters, stadiums, and arenas. So basically, he was just like trying to limit the amount of soda that you could consume at one time. So, and it actually showed that he, instead of bringing the proposal to the city council for a vote, the administration sent it to the board of health. So that kind of right there just shows that instead of bringing it to city council and involving the government, see that he bring it to the administration of health instead.
Yeah, and it's all about, like, he got shut down really fast.
They quoted that it allegedly interfered with the consumer's choice.
And he fought it.
He fought it. So they're just basically saying we have a choice to consume their products, but they also want us to make the choice so they're not being blamed to exercise and to involve less TV. So it's kind of like how Jane said, like, wishy-washy, like you want us to consume something that's feeding into us being obese, and then you want us to supposedly exercise
and balance it out.
Like, the food industry is able to do that as well through McDonald's and lobbyists of Cleveland. They gave money to the Cleveland Hospital and Children's Hospital of Philadelphia to make themselves look good, Reading the perils of ignoring history, big tobacco played dirty and millions died. How similar is big food? The article by Kelly D. Brownell and Kenneth E. Warner. Basically, they book from the 1950s. 50s, 60s, which they gave money to dance troupes, museums, and communities to look good for public relations. And that's what the food industry is doing at the hospital, like McDonald's and the Cleveland hospitals.
So what is that playbook?
So the playbook, which is basically the core of all the examples we just gave. So one is focus on personal responsibility as the cause of the nation's unhealthy diet. The second one is raise fears that government action spurs personal freedom. Vilify critics with totalitarian language, characterizing them as the food police, leaders of a nanny state, and even food fascists. And accuse them of desiring to strip people of their civil liberties. Criticize studies that hurt industry as junk science. Emphasize physical activity over diet. State there are no good or bad foods, hence no food or food type, should be targeted for change. And plant doubt when concerns are raised about the industry.
Doubt.
Exactly. And it's the playbook is basically them curving our view on everything. And these core things that they have are basically telling us what we should, how they influence our views. And
how, like I said, there's so many different views that they give us. Tuning in with us again, and
this has been Food for Thought. Our episode is
Food Industry on Obesity.
And I'm Trisha.
Taylor.
And Jane.